Hello and welcome to Clark Athletic Center for this afternoon's matchup in the Little East between the UMass Boston Beacons and the Keene State Owls. The Beacons coming off a straight set victory on Tuesday on the road at Rhode Island College. Their first road victory this season, but their third straight against a conference opponent. Meanwhile, Keene State also coming off their own straight set victory on Tuesday, this over Norwich. They've won 3 in a row and 4 of their last 5. And while UMass Boston has struggled on the road this season, they've been near perfect at home with a 9-0 record here at Clark Athletic Center. Meanwhile, Keene State, no stranger to success on the road with a record of 6-2. But perhaps most significantly, these two teams in a 3-way deadlock in the Little East Conference standings, and the winner of today's matchup will lift themselves in the second place in the standings. We'll take a deeper dive on today's matchup between the Beacons and Owls when we come back here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris, the subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown, and it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
Hello, welcome back here at Clark Athletic Center. I'm Mike O'Brien, joining you on the Beacons Broadcast Network. Getting towards the end of the regular season here, and the Beacons right now with a record of 7-16, 4-2 in the Little East, and in a tie, a 3-way tie in the conference standings with Keene State. As we take a look at the all-time series between these two teams, UMass Boston leading the all-time series 18-14. Beacons have won 16 in a row before last year's upset by the Owls in the Little East Conference semifinal matchup. Last meeting, number 3 Keene State 3-1. Again, November 2nd, 2019, maybe a year off on that one. Amelia Chapieska having 13 kills, 13 digs, and 3 assists. As we look into the players to watch for today's matchup, Alex Chiusa, the reigning Little East Rookie of the Week, with 15 kills and a .619 hitting percentage against Southern Maine. They'll have to watch out for Megan Palmer on the other side for Keene State. She's having a strong season here for the Owls, not only with 2.52 kills per set, second on the Keene State Owls squad, but also fourth in the entire Little East Conference with 333 digs. That's good for 3.54 per set. So as we talked about the recent winning streak here for the Beacons, not too long ago, they were able to take down Southern Maine on home court back on October 16th, a straight set victory. Let's go to the highlights from that win for UMass Boston.
Sorry, I ain't got no money, I'm not trying to be funny, but I left it all at home today. You can call me what you wanna, I ain't giving you $1 this time, I ain't gonna run away. You might knock me down, you might knock me down, but I will get back up again. You can call it how you wanna, I ain't giving you $1 this time, I ain't gonna run away. This time I ain't gonna run. Not this time. Not this time. This time I ain't gonna run. Not this time. Not this time. Not this time.
Komminsk, oh, she deked everybody there. It looked like it was
Not this time. Not this time. Not this time. Not this time.
down. That was by Tiscareno.
Not this time.
So the last home win for UMass Boston. Again, part of that three-game stretch. Wins over Little East Conference opponents. But let's take a look at today's matchup between these two teams on the air statistical outlook. You see that the Beacons have been hitting pretty good this season, 132, but the Owls leading Little East Conference with a 20.2 hitting percentage and just absolutely owning the kills per set category as well. Where the Beacons have had a lot of success this season has been the service game as they lead Little East with 58, make that 83 service aces this season. And so those are the team stats. When we look at the individual leaders for these two teams, Allie McLaughlin right now, 302 kills. Elizabeth Johnson, look at that hitting percentage, 320, third in the Little East. Not too bad on the Beacon side of things. Marcelle Tiscareno, 298. That's amongst the league leaders in the Little East as well. And Tyler Parker, 313 digs, but pale in comparison to Olivia Matthew, who leads, again, the conference. 5.74 digs per set. The focus of today's Beacon Spotlight, Alex Chiosa. As we said, the reigning Little East Rookie of the Week talks about growing up in Greece and making the move to the U.S. right before her senior year of high school.
Volleyball in Greece, we don't have high school sports, so we would have to do a club, like play at a club. And also there are different rules, like for example, if the ball touches the ceiling, you can't keep playing it, and then you don't have that many substitutions. It's only if you go in for someone and you come out, the substitution closes. There were just like some of the rules that were different and had to learn. So I was doing basketball at first for the 3 years. I started when I was around 8. And then I stopped doing that because when I moved to another city to live, they didn't have women's basketball. And then after that, I did track for a year. It wasn't really my thing. I didn't like it as much. So that's when I started playing volleyball, and I was 13. And I've been playing since then. So the move was basically made to move from like Greece to here. Was basically for me to go to like a better school and like find a good job. And so my mom wasn't really a fan of the moving here because like she had a job, we were comfortable and stuff, but my dad wanted to because he thought I would have a better chance here. So then they asked me if I wanted to move, and obviously I would like to stay there because all my friends and my family was there, but at the same time I knew I would have more opportunities here, and that's the reason why we all decided to move here. But I had a saying too. It was hard when I went into high school because I was hearing like SATs and like tests like that, and my counselor would just be like, did you take the SATs? And I didn't even know what that was. And like I didn't like score that great, but then like I tried to talk with counselors, like with all my teachers. It was also hard in the aspect of friendships because everyone by their senior year already have their group of friends. But then like volleyball helped me find friends, and I'm glad like I was actually able to like get used to the system and like actually go to college. Like I wanted to go to college, and I was stressed that maybe I won't make it because of like maybe the language. I had a difficulty obviously, but then I was glad I made it to college, and I love it here. I learned English in Greece, and I would only talk with my teacher, and obviously my teacher had a Greek accent, so it was easier for me to understand her. And when I moved here, it was hard to understand the slang and different words and the accent. And also I thought that people were talking fast when they really weren't, but it was just me having difficulty understanding. And during my first tryouts too, my coach would explain a drill, and I didn't know exactly the definitions of an outside hitter or a libero. I wouldn't know those things, so it was hard. So I would just go in the end of the line, watch the other players play, and then join the group, because then I knew what we were doing. When we would say set the ball or pass the ball. So pass in Greece basically means set. So every time my coach would say pass the ball, I would understand set, and that was throwing me off for quite a while. Personally, the transition from high school to college for me was easier than Greece to high school, because as I said before, in high school everyone has their friendships, their groups, so it's kind of hard to just go and be a part of a group. But then in college, people come from all over the place, they trying to make friends, so I was able to talk to more people. My teammates were more than open to talk to me, and I made a lot of friends because of the team. And also I think that since I know the language now, it was easier even for classes. In high school, the language wasn't that easy for me. I had to pick up the language first before started studying. And then now in college, it's just putting hard work, not as much the language. So for me, it was easier to transition to college rather than high school from Greece.
So Alex Kiosa, the freshman from Athens, Greece, who played her high school ball at North Quincy High School. As we prepare for tonight's matchup, or rather this afternoon's matchup between these two teams, we take a closer look at the record. Keene State 20-7 on the season, 4-2 here in the Northeast 10, 6-2 on the road. Meanwhile, UMass Boston a lot better than their overall record would indicate, 7-16. As we look at the starters here for Keene State, Sydney Johnson, Elizabeth Johnson out there along with Megan Palmer, Allie McLaughlin, Bailey Wilson. You look at her stats, second in the LEC with 850 assists. She's joined on the court by Emily Ann Ashford, and Olivia Matthew, of course, will be out there at libero for the Owls. So now let's take a look at the UMass Boston starters today.
I'm Alexandra Kiosa, a freshman outside hitter from Quincy, Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Michaela Garrity, a freshman outside DS from Elgin, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Carsen Komminsk, a junior setter from Columbus, Ohio.
Hi, I'm Tyler Parker, a junior libero from Mahwah, New Jersey.
Hi, I'm Sarah Doyle, a senior middle hitter from Glendale, California.
Hi, I'm Sydney Birch, senior libero from Boca Raton, Florida.
Hi, I'm Marcelle Tiscareno. I'm a sophomore middle hitter from El Paso, Texas.
And so Marcelle Tiscareno will round out the starters this afternoon for UMass Boston, as we now take a look at the keys to today's match. And for the Owls, have to assert yourself in the middle. Make sure that offense and a defense both coming strong in front of the net. Chapieska making a difference. You look at her stats this season, 2.63 kills per set, one of the leaders on this team in that category. Also 17 blocks. And finally, be strong on the service. This has been the strongest aspect of the Beacons game this season. Again, leading the conference with 83 service aces. And so if they can get that service game going and get some easy points that way against Keene State, perhaps they can get the victory here against their little conference rivals. We're about to get underway with game time. UMass Boston taking the court for what is one of their 4 remaining games on the schedule. They wrap up their conference play on the road against Western Connecticut State. And again, the road has been a bit of a bugaboo for the Beacons this season, and so we'll look to get a home win here to raise their record to 7-1 here at Clark Athletic Center. As the teams line up, and so we go through the starting lineups again here, and we will take a quick break. When we return, we'll have the first set between the Beacons and the Owls here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the...
Moving from Turkey, it was a rough journey for me because when you don't really speak the language that well and when you don't really fit in the crowd, it's very easy to disappear. But I decided not to give up, so, and UMass helped me.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well. But it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that, and it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
Hello, welcome back here at Clark Athletic Center. I'm Mike O'Brien, bringing you this afternoon some action between the UMass Boston Beacons volleyball team and the Keene State Owls. The Beacons coming off that straight set victory over Rhode Island College on Tuesday, their first road win of the season. Amazing to think they're just 1-9 away from Clark Athletic Center this year, but so good on their home court, 6-1, trying to make it 7-1. That win over Rhode Island College. 17th straight win for the Beacons in that all-time series head-to-head. Meanwhile, on the other side of the court, Keene State made it 3 in a row with their victory over Norwich. Pretty good game hitting-wise for the Owls as they hit 345 in the first set and then 342 in the second. We're off to the straight set win when it was all said and done. Clinching the third straight season with 20-plus wins here for Keene State, who are coached by Bob Weiner in his 14th year with Keene State. And it appears UMass Boston will start off things on the serve. Sarah Doyle, the senior from Glendale, California, to start us off. Doyle to the back corner on that serve, comes around to Ashford, and that goes down for the swing and the kill. Keene State first in the conference with a 207 hitting percentage and averaging almost 13 kills per set. Now free offense here as Ashford is blocked at the net. Komminsk to the outside for Kiosa off the top of the block. Saved there by Matthew. And now touch along. One-handed dig there, but a lift by Komminsk. will give the point there to the Owls. Olivia Matthew doing what she does best, getting those digs. 5.74 digs per set, and 2-0 here early for the Owls, but not for long as Tiscareno goes down the line for the kill. Side out here for UMass Boston. And Carsen Komminsk, who has 40 service aces this season. Nice, long, hard serve to the outside. Big dig there for Garrity. Now Komminsk, a little off the mark there on that setup for Reed. Side out back to the Owls. (3-1) here in the early going of the first set in favor of Keene State. Short serve there from Matthew. Komminsk will save it, and now Tiscareno with the tip off the hands of Bailey Wilson. And a break there for UMass Boston. Heads up play by the Beacons. And now Alex Chiosa, who we profiled during the pregame show, back to serve, the freshman. And that is dug up here by the Owls. Quickly to the middle, off the hands of Komminsk on the swing by Elizabeth Johnson. Johnson, who had 3 double-digit kill games in her first 4 contests, totaling 42, has not had double-digit kills since, as that serve goes just long from Matthew, and a free point there for the Beacons. So Tyler Parker, the libero today for UMass Boston, will try and tie things up here. But that goes wide, back to a 2-point lead for Keene State. So after the side out, Allie McLaughlin, sophomore from Melbourne, Florida. Low serve. Komminsk trying to set up Doyle a little bit behind her, and now just touched over, and no one there for UMass Boston. So a little bit of a mistimed jump there between Komminsk and Doyle. And Doyle couldn't get the swing she wanted and went from there for the Owls. The outside for Reed, off the top of a block, and a nice dig there for Wilson. Knocked over Komminsk. Parker to the outside. Garrity denied at the net. Kelly Hunt and Wilson both there for the block. And all of a sudden, it's a 4-point lead here for the Owls. To the middle for Doyle, hard off the top of the block. And a big kill there for the Beacons to pull back within 3 and end a 3-point run there for the Owls. So Mallory Reed, the freshman, will check out. Coming in her place, the senior, Sydney Birch, will head back to serve here for the Beacons. And Matthew there on the dig on the serve. And a dig there from Birch. That'll land out of bounds on the Owl side of the net. And so a point for Keene State once again, side out for them. And so it's Elizabeth Johnson, one of 2 Johnsons on this squad. Birch over to Komminsk. Now the outside for Doyle. A little bit behind her. Couldn't get all of her on that swing. And now back to the front of the net. Doyle will just knock over. Awkward setup there for the Owls. And a free ball here for the Beacons. Komminsk to the attack line. Chiosa just missed the baseline. Good setup there for Chiosa, who just couldn't get enough spin on that swing. Parker to Komminsk. Will touch herself. On top of that was Elizabeth Johnson. And now the Owls will try the same thing, and it works out for the Beacons ultimately, as Kelly Hunt couldn't handle that cleanly on the far side of the court. Side out for UMass Boston. Michaela Garrity. 4 kills, 8 digs against Rhode Island College. Now back to serve. But first, some perspiration pickup on the Beacon side of the court. And so we get back underway with play here at Clark Athletic Center. Jump serve there from Garrity. Having some trouble handling that was Williams, but a great save by Palmer. And it comes to Kiosa. Again, a great dig by Williams, just knocked over here by the Owls. Can the Beacons do something with this? Doyle couldn't extend, and that goes sailing long. Doyle hitting .250 this season for the Beacons as a low serve has to be handled there by Parker, and then Kiosa died in net. Komminsk will try again, this time for Doyle. Tried to go for the touch, kept up there by Ashford. And finally swung over by Palmer. Komminsk quickly to Kiosa. Matthew on the dig, 50-50 ball, knocked over. Parker, the outside for Kiosa again. We'll try and go touch shot, and now spiked down by Doyle. This says enough of this rally. Let's end this, and she did. Marcelle Tiscareno back in here, replacing Tyler Parker. Doyle on the serve for the Beacons. Comes to the outside. Nice dig there by Doyle off the block. To Garrity. Try to go down the line. There's Sarah Williams. And now a great keep there by Birch. To Kiosa off the block, and the Beacons will get the point. Oh, Sydney Birch. What a dig to keep it alive, and then Kiosa able to muscle that past the block for the point here for UMass Boston. And then a tough serve for Williams. She couldn't handle it. Service ace for UMass Boston, and they're within two. So Doyle picking on Sarah Williams a bit on the last few serves. Let's see where she goes again. This time right in the net. Service error gives a side out back to the Owls. Garrity, Komminsk will chase it down to Kiosa. And off the block. Caught the corner. And quickly, UMass Boston back on the serve after the side out. And Komminsk trying to get the Beacons a little bit closer. And that's a hard swing and a kill from Emily Ann Ashford right through the block. Pushing it back to a 3-point lead here for the Owls. And it'll be Matthew. She'll float one over the UMass Boston side of the court. Komminsk over to Kiosa. Matthew there. Good defense. And now Komminsk for Parker. Reed. And that is kept up this time, but some confusion. Who's going to get it? Some confusion on the Beacon side then as well. Kiosa from the outside, right to the waiting arms of Sydney Johnson. And now Matthew will push it over. Komminsk to Tiscareno. Just gets enough of that to find some open space on the court. You can tell Tiscareno wanted to just absolutely hammer that home, but instead was able to work with what she got on the set. Kiosa. Hard serve again there from the freshman. And kept up for a brief time off the block. Sydney Johnson gets a point there for the Owls. And another point here for Keene State, 13-10. They are on top. Quickly for Tiscareno, try to go to the sideline. And now Parker. Komminsk quickly for Tiscareno, but here comes Reed trying to push that to the far corner, unable to do so. And a good effort there from Kiosa, but the swing and the kill coming from Keene State, and they're back up top by 4. Since it's been 4-3, the Beacons have just not been able to get any closer than 2, and they've seen that deficit double here, 14-10, Keene State on top. We'll take a quick aside here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
I'm the first undergraduate alumnus to lead this university. I'm very proud of that. I was literally able to transform my life because of the University of Massachusetts, and I want that for every single student that walks through the door.
Coming out of the timeout, UMass Boston trailing 14-10. Owls on the serve as Kelly Hunt waits for the authorization from the official. She gets it. Jump serve here as Kiosa sends it in front for Komminsk. The outside for Reed. Blocked and off of Reed, out of bounds. Second time Reed's trying to gone for a little finesse instead of the power. And so far in 2 opportunities, the finesse has not paid dividends. Short serve, and that is a service ace from Bailey Wilson. Late recognition from the Beacons. And the biggest lead of this game for Keene State. 6-point cushion up, 16-10. The attack line for Kiosa. Able to power that over. Good dig by Wilson. Now pushed over again, Komminsk. And now Garrity try to go cross court. Quickly to the outside for Sydney Johnson. Good block there by the Beacons. Now to Tiscareno. Finds a lane. And Tyler Parker. Low serve. Caught up to there by Sydney Johnson, and now Reed for Komminsk. We'll send it back to Reed. This time she goes down the line. And it looks like that was just wide. Beacons have just not been able to put together a run of points here in the first set. Komminsk to Doyle. And again, the quick hit fools the Owls defense. And so it's a freshman, Michaela Garrity, in for the freshman Mallory Reed. And a long serve from Sydney Birch, the ace, as the Owls just watch that land just inside the baseline. Nothing they could do about that. Birch again. This time Williams having some trouble, and Matthew can't get the dig. And so Birch just causing some havoc here with her service game. Can she do it a third time? Matthew says, I'll take this. Off the block, Kiosa there. Komminsk over Garrity, kill, but dug up there by Williams. And then a quick swing from Keene State. This time it was Kelly Hunt finding some space between the Beacons defense. And so side out and back to a 4-point lead for Keene State. Komminsk. Well beyond the attack line was Kiosa, and she's still able to get the kill. Kiosa's been very good from distance here for the Beacons today. They've pulled within 3. Garrity off the body of Williams and now put back down but kept alive. Tapped over by the Owls. And a big swing, and they say a touch there on the Owls side of the net. As Amelia Chapieska able to get the kill. And then Williams and Matthew, miscommunication on the serve. And another ace, this time for Garrity, and that's going to give Bob Weiner a chance to pause, call a timeout with the lead, which was once 6 for the Owls, all of a sudden shrunk down to 1. We'll take a break here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
The 5-campus UMass system is the university that educates the workforce of Massachusetts. We recognize that we are truly here for a reason, and that recognition inspires us and drives us every single day.
The Beacons have clawed their way back to within 1 point of the Owls.
This time
Helped
Williams
along
having
by
some
a
trouble,
big kill
and
by
Matthew
Sarah Doyle,
can't.
and then Michaela Garrity essentially getting back-to-back service aces for UMass Boston, and so the freshman back to serve once again. It's amazing how that service game can just turn the tide of a set in a match in an instant. And maybe she does it again. Good effort to get it over the net. But now free offense here for the Beacons. Chapieska tried some finesse. Back outside, block at the net. Kept alive by Matthew. And then off the net, and the Beacons have tied things up 18-18. So Garrity has helped make it 4 straight points here for UMass Boston. 50-50 ball. And that goes just long. And all of a sudden, the Beacons have their first lead of the game late in the first set. Williams out as Allie McLaughlin now in here for the Owls. And tough first touch. Matthew to UMass Boston side as it comes to Chapieska cross court and dug up by McLaughlin. Now Komminsk back over to Parker. Great effort there defensively. But now the Owls have a chance to pull in front, but Kiosa says nay to that. Chapieska down the line and sent just towards the baseline. Garrity didn't want to risk it. Off the block. Great rally here. And now Parker with the diving dig. Komminsk for Chapieska. Spins it over. Matthew right on top of it. And now kept alive, but it could not be put over there by the Beacons. What a rally. And we're knotted up once again, 19-19. That ends a run of 5 straight points for the Beacons. And so on the serve, it'll be Sydney Johnson. McGarrity right there, Komminsk to Doyle, quick hit. And back here to Keene State, blocked there by Komminsk and Boyle, and now Doyle will handle herself. Gets the block, gets the kill. Sarah Doyle, the senior, makes it 20-19 for UMass Boston. And so they look to get the rotation order here. And so the referees will have a quick chat. We will keep it here. So UMass Boston has struggled out of conference this season. You look at their overall record, 4-2 in the Little East, which puts them just 3-14 outside of conference play. But the Beacons picked to finish second in the Little East in the preseason poll. Who is right behind them by a vote? Well, Keene State. They're 20-7 this season, but when it's all said and done, these teams both have a 4-2 record as that goes off the block for a point for the Owls. And not only both a 4-2 record in conference play, but now both with 20 points here in the first set. And that goes wide off the serve from Megan Palmer. An unforced error and an untimely error for Keene State. And Komminsk. Another strong server here for the Beacons. Over for McLaughlin. Komminsk to Reed. Thought Tiscareno was going to handle that, so free ball here. Off the block, Reed and Tiscareno. Komminsk to the outside for Chapieska. Hard hit that goes off the face of Megan Palmer, and she is down. Chapieska able to reel back. Able to reel back and just absolutely get everything behind that down the line shot, and Palmer just could not get her hands and arms up fast enough. So you hope that she is okay. That's going to sting at the very least, and you just hope that for no real injury. Hopefully she's just able to shake this off. As the athletic trainer tends to Palmer, she'll be helped up. She will walk off the court. Well, she'll have to stay on. She'll probably have to check out for a brief moment as head coach Bob Weiner checks in on his junior outside hitter. And it looks like Keene State will take a timeout and allow Megan Palmer the opportunity to quickly rest up and get back in this game. As we take a look at that play again. A big swing from Amelia Chapieska that made it 22-20. As Chapieska, ultimately the benefactor, as we see some of the good serves from the Beacons late in this first set, and now we see that play. Chapieska went hard down the line, no block, as it went right between the two defenders at the net, and Palmer did not expect that coming with the speed and, well, accuracy. But it looks like Palmer is, well, no worse for the wear. She comes out of the timeout, and she will stay in the game here for Keene State. So it looks like maybe because of the injury, she will at least have to take 1 point off, and so she will. As Brianna Azanero gets her first action in this match, the sophomore from Ashway, Rhode Island, making her 15th appearance of the season. In the meantime, the Beacons, who trailed for so much of this first set, now leading 22-20. Block at the net. And that's a point there for the Beacons, as Allie McLaughlin not only was blocked at the net, but looked like she made contact with the net as well. So Komminsk picking on Azanero again. This time cross court from the Owls. Parker to Garrity. She'll just spin it over. Quickly in front, touch long. Komminsk can't get there. Some finesse from Ashford. And I'll give the side out here to the Owls as they stay within 2. So Komminsk went diving to the court on that last point. Maybe didn't get as far as she wanted due to some perspiration on the court. So a big point here for both sides. Olivia Matthew, standing serve. Garrity to the front for Komminsk. Over to Tiscareno off the block, but has an arrow on the dig. And a Ashford off the block. Make that McLaughlin gets the kill. And now Matthew and the Owls just a point away from tying things up. Short serve, Garrity handles it. To Chapiaska. Matthew gets a dig, has an arrow, back over to Matthew. Gets enough of this to find the Beacons attack line. Now quickly for Tiscareno, and she hammers it home. And just like that, set point for UMass Boston. Alex Chiosa in the serve as the Beacons try and close out this first set. Chiosa with the jump serve. Has an arrow, gets down to one knee. Block at the net, but reset here, and they're going to give the point to the Beacons. And now we'll close out the first set as UMass Boston rallies from behind to win set number one, 25-22. And so we will head to break here at Clark Athletic Center. When we return, we'll take you around Beaconville and also look at the highlights from the first set win for UMass Boston, all on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well, but it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that, and it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
Birch again. This time Williams having some trouble, and Matthew can't. Before we get back to the action here at Clark Athletic Center, let's go around Beaconville. Women's soccer and Keene State still scoreless in the first half. And it's a Keene State kind of day here for the Beacons as the men's soccer team trails the Owls 2-1. And men's hockey hosting the EHL All-Stars in about, we'll call it 2.5 hours. And that takes us around Beaconville, but back here at Clark Athletic Center, a 1-0 set lead for the Beacons after they came from behind to claim that one 25-22. Owls had as much of a 6-point lead at one point in the first set. UMass Boston finishes up with a .234 hitting percentage. Owls actually a little bit better at .286, but big first sets for Sarah Doyle and Marcelle Tiscareno, each with 5 kills, 13 assists for Carsen Komminsk. And Komminsk and Parker also with 4 digs each to lead UMass Boston. And don't forget about the service game. 4 aces in the first set for the Beacons, led by Sydney Birch. Meanwhile, Emily Ashford, 5 kills, the most in that first set for the Owls. Second set has begun. Parker sets up here Komminsk, and now Tiscareno finds that back left corner on the swing. And the Owls have not had many answers for Tiscareno this afternoon so far. So Komminsk now on the serve. Off of Azanero. Matthew will adjust. Two-handed over as it comes to Chapieska, and her push goes well long. So side out makes it 1-1 here. Sydney Johnson, who had career high 10 kills, a .435 hitting percentage, and 23 digs in that last win against Norwich. She's on the serve, and Kiosa denied at the net. Comes over the net, almost fools Elizabeth Johnson. And now Parker on the dig. No one can get there for the Beacons. And so Keene State back in front. That'll be Johnson again. Parker. Komminsk to Chapieska. Azanero got enough of that. And a high up in the air, lobbed over by Johnson. Komminsk quickly for Tiscareno. Drives it down and home for the point. The Owls have had success defensively on the outside. They have not been able to defend the middle against Tiscareno with much success. Now a little touch and a diving effort from Komminsk. Back to the outside again. This time it's Kiosa. Komminsk for Tiscareno. Well, just touch over, and then Komminsk again here on the dig. To Chapieska. Goes cross court. Good positioning by Azanero. Now Johnson blocked at the net, but it goes out of bounds. And now we'll give the point to Keene State. Komminsk has been good on the digs, and she's been right on top of things with the towel here today for her team. Matthew with a high serve that drops short. Garrity cross court off at Johnson all the way to the far stands. Swing and a kill makes it 3-3. Now on the serve, Tyler Parker. Picking on Azanero again. Over to McLaughlin off the block. That missed Garrity, but goes down for the Owls point. So McLaughlin getting another kill. As Chapieska, one-handed dig there. Nice pick up by Wilson. Now Parker and Komminsk again almost collide. Garrity trying to go to the far corner. Instead back to McLaughlin. Komminsk shoved over by Chapieska. And now just bumped over by the Owls. Komminsk to Chapieska. And what a diving effort again, this time by Matthew. Kiosa to Komminsk. To the front. Garrity down the line, and unable to get this time was Matthew. Garrity getting her first kill of the game. And Sydney Birch subbing in and rotating back the serve for UMass Boston. Had 2 service aces in the first set. In fact, she really helped turn things around for UMass Boston in that first set. That low, hard serve, it's tough to pick up. As Kiosa, good work to get that at the baseline, but Beacon's unable to play a deflection off the net as that just fell to the Owls side of the court. So side out, and McLaughlin. Again, another low serve, and Kiosa from the back line. Matthew there to defend. Sydney Johnson cross court. Parker picks that up. Now McLaughlin. Komminsk tried to end it herself. She was denied. Now Garrity. That's dug up by McLaughlin. And now Kiosa answers back here as Doyle ends it herself. Went down the middle. We're even up 5-5. And it sure seems like whenever the Beacons need to end the rally, they head to the middle. And it's been Tiscareno or Doyle doing so for UMass Boston. Sydney Johnson try to go down the line. Birch says no to that. Kiosa spins it over. Williams now will pick it up. And then Birch there for Komminsk to Kiosa. And dug up by Matthew. Blocked at the net. As Parker. Doyle, that's blocked, but it goes out of bounds. And the Beacons fired up. Seems like those long rallies have gone UMass Boston's way for the most part here this afternoon. They lead 6-5. And just inside the baseline on the swing from Kelly Hunt. Side out, and we're even up again, 6-6. Elizabeth Johnson on the serve. Doyle blocked the net. We'll reset here. And Garrity and Birch can't chase it down. So Doyle, who has 61 blocks this season, second in the LEC, with .84 blocks per set this time. She was the victim of a block. Kiosa couldn't go cross court. And now Birch will just bump over. To the middle. Parker to Birch. Kiosa with the touch. Back to the Owls it comes. Sydney Johnson. Parker on the dig defensively. And now McGarity from distance. Kept alive by Wilson. And now Hunt goes long for the Owls. Side out for UMass Boston. Again, another rally. Another long rally that goes the Beacons' way. Tough first touch on the serve there. Blocked at the net. Back to the Owls. Johnson will spin it over. Komminsk to Doyle from the attack line. Matthew. And now loose at the net. And touched over. That causes some more difficulty than the Beacons would like. Kiosa on the slide. Right to a waiting Matthew. Big block there at the net again, this time on Ashford. Now down the line. Lifted up, and it comes to Garrity, but they say a push ball there from the Owls, and the Beacons lead 8-7. Coach Weiner unhappy with the call, discussing things with the FAR official. And Doyle with her second service error of this game to bring it back into a tie score 8-8. So we have not seen Megan Palmer into the game since she took that kill off the face. Long serve there from Azanero. So back-to-back service errors here. And the Beacons inch ahead 9-8. And you wonder whether she's done for the game right now, sitting on the bench, or whether she just is going through some sort of protocol. Beacons on a free ball. Kiosa Off the top of the block, Matthew towards the front. Back towards the attack line. And a new setup here for the Beacons, and Chapieska able to drill that off the block and down for the point. So the sloppiness that we saw during the first set early on for the Beacons seems to have been cleaned up midway through the first set and carries over here in the second, except for the service error right there from Komminsk. And neither team able to pull away here by very much in this second set. 10-9, Beacons ahead, Sydney Johnson back. Komminsk to Tiscareno, unable to find any space there. Now Parker, her dig goes back on the outside of the net, and the Beacons to Chapieska, cut shot handled well there by the Owls. Johnson back over Azanero. Parker and Komminsk set up for Kiosa down the line, back to Parker and Kiosa. Now for Tiscareno. That goes off the block, so it seems, and they'll say yes. That took far too drastic of a redirect or a carom to not go off the block of Keene State. Side out, Alex Kiosa. Picking on Azanero again. And that was wide on the swing from Emily Ann Ashford. You can feel UMass Boston's confidence building here. Kiosa again. And again, hard off the arms of Azanero. A service ace for Kiosa. She comes in amongst the team leaders with 31 service aces. She's added one more at least. And maybe another one there. Indecision from McLaughlin. Didn't know whether to play that or let it go out of bounds. And that 50-50 ball / hesitation McLaughlin will draw the timeout from Bob Weiner. And so we take a break with the Beacons having opened up a 5-point lead in the second set. You're tuning in on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Moving from Turkey, it was a rough journey for me because when you don't really speak the language that well and when you don't really fit in the crowd, it's very easy to disappear. But I decided not to give up, and UMass helped me.
Well, back in the first set, it was Sydney Birch with 2 service aces to turn the set around for the Beacons. This time, it's the freshman Alex Kiosa with back-to-back service aces to give the Beacons their largest lead of either set, 14-9. And then Marcelle Tiscareno at the net, getting the kill off the block from Keene State. They seem convinced it went out of bounds clean, but pretty obvious there from the replay. Did go off the hands of the defenders in the middle. So after the timeout, let's see what the Owls do defensively here for Kiosa's serve upcoming. And Matthew there to pick it up. And hard swing off the hands of Komminsk. Ashford gets another kill. And so the timeout from Keene State getting the result desired. Matthews short with this one. Garrity in good positioning. Now McGarrity unable to get the kill, and then long swing there from McLaughlin past the end line for the point. Heading to the Beacons. Beacons up by 5. Parker. Right to Azanero again. Quick hit from the middle, fools Komminsk. Elizabeth Johnson there. Side out for the Owls as Kelly Hunt comes back into the game. Comments quickly for Doyle, punches that over. Kind of awkward play, and now block at the net. From the attack line for Sydney Johnson, Komminsk guarding that sideline. To Garrity, blocked the net. That went into the net, and so 4 hits. And the point will go to the Owls. So they come out of the timeout, and they start to make a little run here. Have taken a 5-point deficit and able to cut it down to 3 for the time being. Doyle with the punch over right into the waiting arms of Hunt, and Al Parker off the 50-50 ball at the net. To Chapieska down the line with authority. And so Chapieska, after getting UMass Boston a side out, checks out. Sydney Burchin. Good first touch there by Matthew. And now Birch, and pushed back over, not once but twice, and now Kioser from the back line. That's denied. But that goes into the net, they say. Bit of a scramble there for either side. And Kioser just can't get it high enough there on the swing. Garrity tries to go cut shot. And so it resets here for the Beacons. A Doyle on the slide. Off the arm of Wilson into the shins of Matthew and down to the court. Garrity. Now Johnson down the line. Garrity's there. Pushed over. Heads up play there by Carsen Komminsk. Completely fooled the Owls' defense. And back to a 5-point cushion for UMass Boston. Williams to the front. Spiked back down, but Williams able to clean up her own mess for the time being. And I'll touch along. Komminsk over to Doyle. Nice one-handed save there. McGarity cannot return the favor for the Beacons. As Elizabeth Johnson with a heads-up play there for the Owls. Johnson, two-time All-State for Exeter. On the serve now, and Kiosa muscles that home. Kiosa, who stands at 5'7", but she can get up. Side out, back to UMass Boston. Doyle, who's had her struggles on the serve here today. But not that time, as Williams can't handle that. Service ace for Doyle. And now 20-14 here for UMass Boston. Doyle again goes long in this one. This time it's Sydney Johnson. And now McGarity to Komminsk, to Tiscareno, blocked. Tiscareno resets. And Doyle unable to get enough height on that third hit, and so side out goes to the Owls. And now we see the sophomore, Brianna Azanero. Back to serve. Komminsk to Tiscareno on the slide, off the arms of Azanero. And Tiscareno with yet another kill. Her 9th kill of the game. Inching up to double digits, Komminsk. To the outside, and space found there on the swing from Emily Ann Ashford. Ashford leading the Owls with now 7 kills. building up a strong game against Norwich. And that last victory, tough serve handled there by Kiosa. Tiscareno with the tap. And now back to Kiosa. Komminsk to the outside for Chapieska, high off the block. And now over McLaughlin, blocked and off the arms of Sydney Johnson. Tiscareno and Chapieska, both in the mix there defensively for the Beacons. And Kiosa, who had 2 service aces earlier in the set. This goes off as an arrow. And Matthew has no choice but just bump it over. Towards the front. Now for Chapieska. Matthew, amazing dig there. Can the Owls build off of that? Komminsk. Parker. Garrity. Goes cross court. Matthew read that. And Komminsk read the tap there for the Beacons. To Chapieska. High off as an arrow. Chapieska went up to kill it. So did Tiscareno. Neither one able to get the swing. And then off the block of Tiscareno. So a little greediness there in a good way. But the point goes back to the Owls. Matthew, standing serve again. Komminsk to Tiscareno, the finesse, the touch. Side out, UMass Boston, 2 points away from closing out this second set. Kiosa's got to tie a shoe first, and then we'll get back underway. Parker, the standing jump serve. Matthew, back behind for Sydney Johnson. Now Komminsk for Chapieska. Off the block and well out of bounds. That goes. Set point here for UMass Boston. Can take a commanding 2-0 set lead here over Keene State. Parker into the net though, and that'll make it 24-18. So Bailey Wilson on the serve here, trying to keep the Owls alive in the second set. Parker gets down low. Komminsk, the outside for Garrity. And off the net. Point Beacons. And they will seal up the second set victory, 25-18. And now they lead 2-0 in the best of 5 here over Keene State. We will step aside. When we return, we'll have your Little East Conference scoreboard today and, of course, second set highlights on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
So the second set won there by the Beacons. As we take a look at the Little East Conference scoreboard, around the world of volleyball today, Western Connecticut beats UMass Dartmouth 3-1. And so that puts them into a tie for second place with Eastern Connecticut right now. Plymouth State easily handles Castleton. They finish up their conference slate with a record of 6-1. And WPI, Eastern Connecticut State, tied up 1-1 in the third set. And Rhode Island College and Southern Maine have headed to a fifth set. But here, between UMass Boston and Keene State, the Beacons ahead 2-0. And UMass Boston will begin the third set on the serve, Sarah Doyle. She have 9 kills and 2 service aces, also 2 service errors as well. And a nice serve to start things off, and the service ace there for Doyle makes it 1-0. Just drop that in, McLaughlin. And Wilson, neither one fast enough to get there for a good first touch. Doyle again, Matthew does a little bit better with this one. And then a quick hit off the arm of Elizabeth Johnson ties the score. Back now, McLaughlin for the Owls. The outside for Cuosa. McLaughlin back in front. Cuosa will reset here for the Beacons. To Tiscareno. That went well wide, but this time not off the block. As Tiscareno in a little tight on that swing. And couldn't get up and around it. Garrity from the attack line, right in the net. And so some early mistakes for the Beacons sees the Owls jump ahead 3-1. McLaughlin again, floats it over the net. McGarity had to be quick. Tiscareno hard off the arms of Wilson. And that's a tough get for any defender. Can't get down low with the arms, can't get up high with the hands. Right in that sweet spot for the attacker. Now Komminsk, Williams. And Matthew will bump over. Komminsk to the outside, Chapieska. Got enough of that to cause some difficulty for Sydney Johnson. Freshman can't get a second touch from any of their teammates, and so it's 3-3. Quickly for Elizabeth Johnson. This time the quick hit is kept up as Cuosa, off a tough set, does well with that one. And the dig from Garrity put right back down by the Owls. 4-3 after the side out. Johnson, Elizabeth on the serve once again. And Cuosa at the comments. Cuosa powers that over. And quickly, but long on the quick hit for Ashford. So it wasn't pretty, but it works out for UMass Boston. They pull back into a tie 4-4. It was Cuosa who helped the Beacons open up a big lead as that's powered off the block for a side out that goes to Keene State. This time the service game from Cuosa, unable to push the Beacons back in front. Brianna has an arrow. Standing serve. Parker thought about letting that drop. Now Chapieska off of Matthew, can't handle it. Al Parker, potentially for the lead for UMass Boston. Johnson off the hands of Chapieska. Back over to Ashford. Chapieska, good defense. Now Garrity goes long with that one. Matthew on the dig. And touched over here by the Owls. Back to Garrett again. She'll try one more time. Williams. What a get there by the Owls. Komminsk over to Doyle on the slide. Blocked. And ultimately it goes for the Owls point. Good defense by Sarah Williams, not once but twice for Keene State. As we've seen back-to-back side outs here. Kiosa. That knuckled away from her at the last moment. So the first time we've seen back-to-back points for either team in a little bit in this third set. 7-5, Keene State on top. Chapieska. Now Doyle wide on that swing. And all of a sudden, Keene State with a 3-point lead that's quickly cut to 2 off the kill by Doyle. Amelia Chapieska heads to the bench, and now Sydney Birch. Birch, who's second on this team, coming into this afternoon with 38 service aces. Matthew has to reach back to bump this over. Komminsk to Doyle again on the slide. Matthew towards her front. And then the swipe from McLaughlin only hits netting. And Birch back once again. As an arrow. Matthew now to McLaughlin and just catching the baseline there. So back to a 2-point edge for the Owls. Parker plays a short serve. Komminsk try to go up and over the net. It's over to McGarity. And it looks like 4 hits there, or double hit. They'll call it. So back to a 3-point cushion here for the Owls. McLaughlin. That time it does go long, side out for the Beacons. And so Michaela Garrity trying to get her team back within 1. McLaughlin. And it looks like a double hit this time against the Owls. And a chance to tie the score once again. Garrity. Bit short on this one. Quickly for Elizabeth Johnson, blocked to the net, and no one can get there for the Owls. Doyle and Kiosa combining to make the block. 10-10 here in the third set. Three-point run here for the Beacons. And that's dug up by Birch. Over to Kiosa, high off the block. McLaughlin resets for Keene State. McLaughlin gets it back. She's able to muscle this down on the Beacon side of the net. Komminsk and Doyle right there. So Belly Wilson, who's closing in on 3,000 career assists. And Komminsk, no slouch in the assist department herself. Kiosa off the block and just in front of a diving, Matthew. Matthew was big on the digs in the first set here for the Keene State. Beacons have found ways to get the ball away from her. This time, no one in the area of that swing and kill for Keene State. As Al McLaughlin back on the serve here for the Owls, and someone's taking Carsen Komminsk's job. Sydney Birch on it this time around for UMass Boston. Good team effort. And so back underway with a 12-11 lead for Keene State. Birch soundly towards the front of the net. Tiscareno on the slide. Goes right down the middle. And so 12-12 the score. Birch out, Chapieska in. We saw Mallory Reed start this game for the Beacons, but she's given way to Chapieska here in the second and third sets. As Johnson try to go across court. Komminsk quickly for Chapieska. Williams keeps it alive. Johnson again. This time Komminsk slaps at it to Kiosa. Off the block. And the Beacons in front 13-12. Komminsk back to serve here. Williams towards the scorer's table, and it cannot be saved by Hunt. So Komminsk back again. And on the service game, the Beacons have gone after Sarah Williams when she's been in, and also Brianna Azanero. That went just wide from Komminsk. Lead cut in half here for the Beacons. Komminsk quickly to front for Tiscareno. Couldn't get the swing. We'll go with the tap. And now blocked the net. Komminsk to Parker. To the outside for Kiosa. Big dig there from Williams. Now to Sydney Johnson. Parker unable to get that in position for Garrity. That might have been going wide either way. 14-14 here in the third set. This has been much more back and forth than either first set, which was Al's pulling ahead. Big rally there, and now a serve that goes long from Elizabeth Johnson. And a second set that saw the Beacons in control for much of it. Can Kiosa help UMass Boston put some distance between themselves and the Owls? And I'll reset on offense here for the Beacons. At Chapieska. Spins it over. Matthew, good first touch. Now Sydney Johnson, and able to tap that over the block of Chapieska. And this time, Komminsk takes back her duties. Brianna Azanero. With the score all knotted, 15-15. High serve, Parker decides to play that. Now Garrity right into the waiting arms of Williams. Parker gets a piece of that. To Chapieska, trying to power this over, does so. Matthew on the dig. Now Johnson, Komminsk. Parker are now on the other sideline to Kiosa, who'll just bump it over. Big dig there. Garrity runs out of room right in front of the scorer's table. Lead goes back to the Owls. Parker to the front for Komminsk. Quickly for Tiscareno. And somehow that's kept alive. Matthew with the dig of the game. Will this gain the Owls a point? Over to Johnson, and that swing goes down for the kill, and that fires up the Owls. And a timeout to be taken here by head coach Kate Carlson. Matthew with the amazing dig, and Sydney Johnson finishing off the point to put the Owls on top by 2. We'll take a quick break here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well. But it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that, and it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
This could be a point that changes the tide of this match. Tiscareno seemingly had the kill. Certainly everyone on the Beacon side thought she did, but Matthews somehow keeps it alive. And then Sydney Johnson finishes it off. Make it 17-15 in favor of Keene State. Keene State's bench all fired up, and you can see Kate Carlson sensing where this might be going, taking a timeout as that one goes long, and a break there for the Beacons. Want to put a hard stop to that momentum that was generated off the big get from Matthew. Now a bit of a knuckle serve there that almost fools Azanero. Johnson and Komminsk for Parker. The outside for Garrity. Off the block, and it finds the inside of the baseline anyway. 17-17. So we talk about the dig by Matthew and whether that could have changed the game for Keene State. What about the timeout? That changed the complexion drastically. Blocked at the net as an arrow. And one last hit there, but they say 4 hits. Indeed it was. And 3 straight points here for UMass Boston as they are ahead once again. And that's long on the swing from Ashford. 19-17. And you wonder for these two teams, especially UMass Boston. UMass Boston maybe on their minds how things finished up last season against Keene State. Bit of an upset win in the first round, the quarterfinals of the Little East Conference, taking down the Beacons 3-1. Big game from Naim Dodd in that one for Keene State. That's a long time ago, and while some of the principals and some of the players have changed, you wonder if revenge or maybe a little redemption on the minds of UMass Boston here this afternoon. They certainly have looked the part after struggling early. They've shown good resilience and good character here so far through 2 and call it 2/3 sets against Keene State. Again, a chance to pull what would be now a 3-way tie with Eastern Connecticut State and Western Connecticut State both at 5-2. The winner here today will go to 5-2 as well. After the side out, Tyler Parker back to serve for UMass Boston. Back to Sydney Johnson it goes. She is denied. And so Ashford will try. She is denied. Back-to-back blocks, and the point goes to the Beacons. (20-17). Williams, that's blocked at the net, off of Matthews' hands it goes. 17-15. Keene State was ahead at one point here in the third set. 6 straight points for the Beacons. And now another tough serve there. Komminsk to Parker, now to Garrity. Goes down the line, touched by Azanero for the point. Beacons feeling it here late in the third set. And Parker goes short with this one. Matthew reads it. Komminsk will keep it up, but will not take a good carom off the net for Doyle. Side out for Keene State. They stem the bleeding for the time being. So again, some moisture pickup here for UMass Boston. And Sydney Johnson on the serve. Good first touch by Kiosa. Over to Chapieska, trying to go hard through the block instead to McLaughlin. And that goes off the block. Garrity a bit late picking that up. Owls within 3 now. Keene State trying to put together a run to stay alive here, not only in the set, but the match overall. Komminsk to Doyle. Bit behind her, so back over to McLaughlin. Komminsk. Parker to Garrity. Right to Matthews. Block of the net, Doyle. Sets it back over Komminsk. Now Chapieska. Off the block, back down for the Keene State points. And so the defense getting it done here for the Owls in recent play. Johnson, low serve. Garrity did good work to get that. Now Garrity, high off the block. Johnson will slap it over. Parker now for Garrity again. And just long on that one. And all of a sudden, what was a 5-point lead for UMass Boston, all the way down to 1. Timeout here to be taken by Kate Carlson. And we will take a break as well. Third set drama when we return on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
Well, the Beacons were seemingly cruising until they weren't. Some good offense followed up by some good defense by the Owls. Took what was a 22-17 lead for UMass Boston, and that tenuous lead all the way back down to 1. And again, head coach Kate Carlson taking a timeout to try and just stop the momentum generated here by the Owls. They have a chance to tie things up here. Johnson, the freshman. Parker over to Garrity. She'll slap it over, blocked to the net as it twirls off the top of the tape. Back to Keene State. Parker, great dig there. Can the Beacons do anything with this? Matthews says no for the time being. Big block that time by Doyle. Now McLaughlin. Parker there, able to get the dig to Chapieska. The finesse, though, back to the Owls. Fresh set on offense. And this time off the block, away from Parker. We're tied up 22-22. UMass Boston just out of system, never able to get back into structure there. Garrity to Komminsk, now to Doyle. Sent over to net here by McLaughlin. Over to Doyle again, a big dig there by Matthew. Komminsk to Chapieska, and able to find an area there over the head of Sydney Johnson. A big side out for the Beacons and a much needed time. Beacons have really struggled to end points here in the late stages of this third set. Sydney Birch on the serve. And Johnson can't get first contact there, or at least good first contact. And the service ace. Match point here for the Beacons. Birch with the standing jump serve, but into the net. Keeps the Owls alive here, 24-23, Olivia Matthew. Still match point here for the Beacons. High arcing serve. Komminsk over to Garrity for the win. The swing and the kill and a straight set victory for UMass Boston over Keene State lifts the Beacons into a three-way tie for second place in the Little East. And of course, a little redemption from last year's playoff win for the Owls. We'll take a break here as we go through the final scoreboard. We'll talk to head coach Kate Carlson, all that and more when we come back here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that with what we were given comes a special obligation.
An obligation not merely to work towards a personal best in the classroom or in the sport we love, but rather an obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. For Special Olympics athletes, victory belongs not only to those who first cross the line, but to all of those who compete and endure.
They are challenged in ways we cannot imagine. They are survivors who test themselves harder and with greater joy than we will ever know.
Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn, as we all do, that in giving we receive so much more in return.
Sport ennobles us. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make.
Welcome back here on the Beacons Broadcast Network after a straight set victory for UMass Boston over Little East rival Keene State. And first question I have for you, head coach Kate Carlson, good to see you, is when you take the court here against the Owls, was last year's playoff result against Keene State on the minds for any of these players, and maybe a little redemption, maybe a little revenge?
Always. I mean, I think our rivalry goes back to even when I played. Keene State was a big rivalry for us. So I think even coming from me, it was very like, this is a big game for us. So we've been honing in on that redemption for sure. And they showed up and played so well. I was very happy.
Now in a three-way tie yet again, now for second place in the Little East Conference with a record of 5-2. But as you look at how this game went along, a little bit of sloppiness in the first set, but able to take control. Second set was all Beacons, and third set was back and forth. How are you able to take control in each of those sets to get the straight set victory?
I mean, I think we just focused really well, and we didn't get down on ourselves when they were able to get the ball back, or we were on serve receive, and we tried to maybe kind of put a stop to them getting any runs on us. So I think it was really easy. We all kind of felt relaxed and we played relaxed. And before, earlier in the season, I felt like we would tense up and we would play tight, and that is just not our MO anymore. And so it was really great to see us just relax and just, okay, we got the next one and move on.
Probably helps that you're here on home court. You're near perfect here at Clark Athletic Center. What was it about playing here for the Beacons?
I mean, we love playing at home. It's really great. We feel much more comfortable at home, obviously. So it's nice to be home, but obviously now we're back on the road. So eyes are going to the next match next week.
Sounds good. Congratulations on the win here today, and good luck in the next one.
Thank you so much.
That was head coach Kate Carlson. Well, let's take a look at those highlights from the third set and the straight set victory for the Beacons.
What's really unique, I think, here is that we're really encouraged to not just do research, but to do research that really improves people's lives and solves problems.
Society has really never had to deal with a problem as complex as dealing with climate change before.
Climate Ready Boston is our data-driven approach to climate change and how we can make sure the city of Boston is prepared for the next 100 years. By leveraging the expertise of UMass Boston and Paul and Ellen, we've been able to take the very best science on sea level rise and translate that into a vulnerability assessment. Really what we've relied on them for is their technical expertise and really helping us understand what the science is saying to help us understand what we need to do next, both from a policy perspective, but then also in terms of projects and financing as well.
UMass Boston actually has a long history of working on environmental problems. One of the earliest programs is working in the cleanup of Boston Harbor in the 80s, and that was actually the genesis for the eventual School for the Environment. We started this program in green chemistry, and we're the first university to offer a PhD in that. And then also the School for the Environment is now working in Nantucket and Gloucester and other places around the world.
I was giving a talk a couple of falls ago for this group called the CEO Summit, and I showed this map of South Boston where all the businesses are being built, and there was a gasp, a literal gasp in the audience when they saw that map, and it's like, you could tell that suddenly they realized this wasn't something that is like down the road. This is something we have to deal with now.
Some of my work has actually been cited in a Supreme Court decision. I've met with congressional committees. I've given testimony to the Massachusetts Senate as well as the U.S. Senate on this issue.
We want to make sure that we are on that leading edge of the research, and we know that UMass Boston is committed to these issues and committed to being a good partner for the city.
UMass Boston raising its record to 8-16 on the season, but 5-2 here in the Little East with a straight set victory over Keene State this afternoon at Clark Athletic Center. The Beacons going to 7-1 here on their home court. I'm Mike O'Brien here on your Beacons post-game report. As we go through the stats for this afternoon's game, as you see the kill advantage going 42-37 over Keene State. The hitting percentage was actually a little bit better there for the Owls, 189 and 185, breaking that down a little bit further. Both teams very good in the first set. Keene State 286 to UMass Boston's 234, but it was the second set in which the Beacons were able to take control, hitting 196 there in that second set. 116 in the third, but getting it done in the service game. Diggs, well, no surprise that that advantage goes to Keene State, leading the Little East Conference in that category by a hefty margin, of course, led by Olivia Matthew and her almost 6 sets per set on the season. Meanwhile, blocks 5 apiece, and the service game. We spoke about this during the broadcast, seemingly in the first set and the second set. And the third, the service game. 10 aces to Keene State's 2. And it seemed like whenever there was a moment in this match or individual set for UMass Boston to turn the tide or make a change, the service game was one leading that along. As we look at the individual statistics here and the leaders for both sides, Sydney Johnson with 10 kills, lead Keene State, also hit 290. Strong game for the freshman. Bailey Wilson adds to her assist total, already coming in with 850 on the season, now up to 882 with a couple matches to go. Olivia Matthew, 26 digs. She was so strong in the backcourt there for the Owls. And Sydney Johnson also getting 2 blocks. 2 players with an ace for the Owls. But we look at UMass Boston. Marcelle Tiscareno coming off the bench with 12 kills, hitting .500. Great game for her. Carsen Komminsk, 32 assists to tie Bailey Wilson for the game lead. Tyler Parker, 16 digs. And Sarah Doyle, big at the net with 4 blocks, also had 3 aces. We'd be remiss if we did not mention Sydney Birch as well, who also had 3 service aces. So that's going to do it for us here on this afternoon's broadcast on the Beacons Broadcast Network. Upcoming schedule, we'll see the Beacons head to the road to face off against Western Connecticut State next week. And then wrapping up on the road against Endicott before the regular season non-conference battle against Brandeis on Saturday, November 2nd. Production team today, Gigi Braga, Rachel Maslak, and Shah Anwar. Your directors, instant replay, handled by Seth Orensky. Getting the good one there today. And for our camera operators, Maya Doherty, Cassie Murphy, Sarah St. Cyrin, and Kaylee Gauthier. For the entire crew here on the Beacons Broadcast Network, I'm Mike O'Brien. Beacons take down Keene State in 3 straight sets. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Hello and welcome into the Edward T. Berry Ice Rink on the campus of UMass Boston. My name is Neil Ravin on the call for the Beacons season opener. Coming up against the EHL All-Star team. This is the 3rd year in a row where this matchup has kicked off the season for the UMass Boston Beacons. They've won each of the previous 2 years. The first year of the event against the EHL was a 3-1 victory for UMass Boston, and this past season was an 8-5 victory for UMass Boston. We'll take a look back at the highlights from this past season's matchup with the EHL All-Stars. UMass Boston actually jumped out to a 3-1 lead up on Team EHL. And in that game, the All-Stars actually came all the way back to make it a 4-3 game. And they were leading at the time. And I remember watching that game this past season. It felt like at the time when the EHL All-Stars went up by the score of 4-3, it was almost like a switch went off on the UMass Boston bench. They came storming back with 5 unanswered goals to make it 8-4. Then ultimately a final score of 8-5. One player that's really shined the past 2 seasons in this game for UMass Boston, you see right there scoring a goal. Nolan Redler also is an alumni of the EHL. In the first year of the game, in particular, Nolan Redler had all 3 goals, and including an empty netter as well. And this past season scoring a couple times in the matchup. And it's really a special game for both sides involved because for the EHL All-Stars, it's a chance for them to play against a college team at a level where they're trying to get to the next season. And obviously for UMass Boston, it's their first time on the ice in an exhibition game against a group of players that have been in game action already for 2 months, just like this season. The EHL season started on September 7th, so you can call it game shape or whatever you want to call it, but the EHL has been playing games since September 7th, and this is obviously the first time on the ice for this year's UMass Boston team, having made it to the NCAA tournament in 2 of the past 4 seasons. Of course, the special year where they made it all the way to the Frozen Four back in 2016. You're looking still at some of the highlights from this past year. You saw me mention before, this is when in the game when the EHL All-Stars went up by the score of 4-3. It was in that moment it felt like a switch just totally flipped, and that's when the Beacons came storming back. You see Pat Harrington tie up the score right there early on, or late on in the second period. It was a great matchup, and one thing in talking with the EHL coaching staff each year after the game, the biggest difference that both them and the players notice in the matchup is just the physical play. Obviously, you're playing against players that are older, stronger, and bigger, and they can shoot more, and it feels like every time they finish off their hit, it's just a little bit harder. There you see a player I was talking about before, Nolan Redler, an alum of the EHL. He was one of the top scorers in the EHL when he was in the league, and he cashed in a couple times last year. As I mentioned before, he had a hat trick the year before. It was a good back-and-forth game. Obviously, the 8-5 score, you could tell that there was plenty of goal-scoring talent all on the ice, but each goaltender made a number of saves as well in the contest, and it's worth noting that UMass Boston's kind of carrying a similar mentality into this year. They actually used all 3 of their goaltenders this past year. They're going to use the same this year. And that's the final. That's last year, 8-5, which gets us nice and ready for this year's matchup. And one player in particular to keep an eye on this season for UMass Boston was on the other side this past year. That's Nick DeLuzio, number 4. He's a freshman for the Beacons this year. And looking back on his time when he was in the EHL, you see the stats right there on your screen. Doesn't include also the playoff stats. In a total of 100 games, he put up 81 points as a defenseman while playing for the Philadelphia Little Flyers. And it's interesting the pipeline that was created between the Little Flyers and UMass Boston over the year. It feels like almost every year there's a player or two working their way up from the EHL to UMass Boston. And we'll keep an eye on Nick DeLuzio in his first collegiate hockey game here this afternoon. That leads us into the goaltending matchup between the EHL All-Stars and the Beacons. You saw me mention before that UMass Boston is planning to use all 3 of their goaltenders in this contest, but they'll start with the senior Bailey McBurney in goal from Beverly, Massachusetts. Last season he had a 16-8-0 record in 24 starts, a .907 save percentage, a 2.68 goals against average, and 2 shutouts. For the EHL All-Stars, they're going to go to the goalie that started the first game of their All-Star week against Fitchburg State on Thursday. That's Billy Girard. He plays for the Boston Junior Rangers so far this season. He's got a 7-3-0 record, a .940 save percentage, a 1.99 goals against average, and 2 shutouts. Nick DeLuzio is one player that was on the EHL side this past season. Another player that was as well was Jake Atkins, and now he's playing in his first game for UMass Boston here this afternoon.
Competition out there and made me just want to get better at my own game and really try to reach that level one day in my life. And I knew that if I played my game and did what I had to do, then I'd make it there.
You get out here, and I mean, last year I was able to, put up some points, and it's not as easy as, you'd think it would be at the next level. You have to work harder, you have to, be bigger, be stronger, and that's something I want to work on, and that was definitely something I needed to do in that game.
This is such an amazing program to be a part of, and I knew that I could reach it if I just went out and played my game. I like to play a physical game, use my body, and doing that, having the opportunity to do it right in front of coach, I had to take advantage of it. Nothing in specific. I just remember getting back to the bench after a shift, my heart's racing, and so much going through my mind. There was so much energy, and it just really got me so excited to play at this level.
A guy like Garrett Gallagher, he's from my hometown, so I heard about UMass Boston for 4 years. You don't expect to get here, and then when you have the opportunity to do it, it helps knowing guys that grew up where you grew up and dealt with the same stuff you did. They do a great job. They showcase you all the time, which is huge. They put you up against top talent that a lot of people are, I guess, appreciated. Like, it's not you wouldn't expect that league to put out that many good players, but they do, and there's a lot of good talent there is right there. Definitely George Vanakis. He's playing on a different squad this year, but I know if I get the chance to go against him, there's no way I'm letting him by me, so that'll be a big task for tomorrow.
Oh, no, we can't let them in. We just got to be on them hard, and it's going to be fun playing against some former teammates, show them what it's like to be here, and I think they're really excited too, so can't wait for it.
That was Jake Atkins and Nick DeLuzio talking there. As I mentioned, both players played in this game last season for Team EHL, now both in their freshman year at UMass Boston. Atkins, a member of last year's championship team with the New Hampshire Avalanche. He had a total of 70 points in 50 total games this past season in the EHL. He played for, as I mentioned, the New Hampshire Avalanche, and that leads us into the starters for Team EHL, a few of which coming from those New Hampshire Avalanche. They'll start with the forward line of Victor Nikiforov and Kyle Anderson, who are joined by Andrew Maynard, defensive pairing of Corey Doney and Nick Nault. And as I mentioned before, it's Billy Gerard in goal for Team EHL. That leads us into the starters now for UMass Boston.
Bailey McBurney, senior goaltender, Beverly, Massachusetts.
Ryan Rowland, freshman defenseman from Manahawkin, New Jersey.
Nick Albano, junior defenseman, Beverly, Massachusetts.
Nolan Radler, senior forward, Winchester, Massachusetts.
Daniel Akbar, senior forward, Richland, Washington.
Zach Ross, junior forward, St. Louis, Missouri.
And now we're set and ready to go. As I mentioned, the third straight year with these two teams facing off to kick off the season for UMass Boston. We'll take a 30-second break, come back with the puck drop next. You're watching the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris, the subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown. And it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
Welcome back into the Edward T. Berry Ice Rink. Once again, my name is Neil Ravin. We're getting set right now for puck drop. Next up, though, is the national anthem here between the Beacons and Team EHL.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
And with that, we're ready to get the season started for the UMass Boston Beacons, the third year of kicking off their hockey season against the Eastern Hockey League All-Stars. For the EHL All-Stars is part of what they call All-Star Week, which for them it's transformed from one game the first year against UMass Boston, which was a 3-1 win for the Beacons. Then they played 2 games this past year, which included the 2-1 loss against Plymouth State, and then an 8-5 loss, like we showed you the highlights for before, against UMass Boston. And then this year, the event for them has increased all the way up to now 3 games. The week kicked off with a 1-1 tie for the EHL All-Stars against Fitchburg State on Thursday. And then after giving up the first goal last night against Salem State, the EHL All-Stars scored 5 unanswered goals in that contest, earning their first ever victory over an NCAA Division III opponent. And talking with head coach Peter Belisle when I arrived today, he gave us a little congratulations. Of course, my full-time job right now is with the EHL and the Director of Communications for the Eastern Hockey League, calling a few games for UMass Boston this season, and there's many guys from across the league that are very proud of that first win for the EHL yesterday over a collegiate hockey program. The biggest question mark, of course, though, is after playing 2 D3 schools in 2 days, how will the energy be here in game number 3? We're set and ready to go with puck drop, and we're underway. It's one straight back by Notchbauer, and he goes back to the point. He can start off in their own zone. Good pressure from Kyle Anderson to start off this one for Team EHL. They are feeling confident, of course, having won for the first time against a Division III school yesterday. But we'll see how that carries over into today. Obviously, every time there are some nerves going into a matchup like this because you're playing against a school that ultimately you'd love to also go to, but you're also showing if you're ready right now at the junior hockey level to make that jump. Obviously, it's a very long season. You could develop a lot more over the next 5 months, but there are plenty of colleges in attendance here, and they're definitely scouting the EHL. Obviously, they have some opponents. As Notchbauer finishes this one off, kind of a broken play, and the first shot on goal finds a way to get past Billy Gerard. I don't think he was expecting a shot there at the time. And it finds a way into the back of the goal. We'll have to check out the assist. I think it got shot through a pair of legs for a second, but one that I think Billy Gerard is going to want back. We'll try and get the replay on that one. But it's Daniel Notchbauer, the senior, who gets UMass Boston on the board first. So this one has started off the same way the past 2 years have started off between the EHL and UMass Boston. The only assist on the goal goes to number 5, Nick Albano, and now racing up ice is GJ Swanky for Team EHL. It's pushed over to the corner, then taken back behind the goal. Pushed along the boards from there. Rachowiak knocked down his man. Swanky trying to go further from there. He gets pushed back behind again and comes over to this near side. EHL alum Evan Helt picks things up, former Philadelphia Little Flyer. Following a similar path to him is Nick DeLucio. You got to see his first shift, but as I mentioned before, he played in this game last year for Team EHL, as this one goes racing down for icing. Face-off will come back down into the EHL end. UMass Boston scoring on their first shot of the game. Daniel Notchbauer from Nick Albano. As now it's pushed back into the corner. Vanakis picks it up there. Moved it on the backhand for a moment. You got a pair of guys from either side coming together in the corner. Now a shot comes through. That got steered just wide at the last possible second by Gerard. Kicks back behind the goal. That's for Mitchell Haight, takes over for Team EHL. Trying to spring Tristan Mock, who had a breakaway goal yesterday against Salem State for EHL, but that one goes over his stick. Now along the boards, it doesn't get out of the zone. It kicks back behind. Finch digs it out for the EHL All-Stars, cycles, but the rest of his line's currently in a change. And the puck is turned over. UMass Boston now trying to move it out of their zone. Couple players come together. And it's eventually skated out of the zone by the Beacons, but turn right back over. Vickers going across for Klein. They go back and forth and then start to begin their way up ice. Pass across to Board. Had it hop off of his stick. Kicked back over. Almost a chance for the Beacons. Skips its way just over the line. And then back to pick it up now is Hildreth for Team EHL. Plays it down to the stick of McBurney, who then cycles it along the boards on this near side. It trickles its way out in the neutral ice, and I think the initial rush from the EHL has worn off just a little bit. Obviously, UMass Boston scoring on their very first shot of the day. And 2:45 gone so far. It's a 1-0 lead for the Beacons. Kicked down the wall for a moment, then jumping to glove that one back into the zone is DeLucio. This is his first collegiate hockey shift. It's pretty funny for him. He was proud to say that he was in this game last year and now is on the other side. In each of the past 2 seasons, there have been players that have played against Peter Belisle and the UMass Boston Beacons that have then been recruited to come here. You look at Nolan Egbert, who will see, I believe, the second period in goal. He was a star the first year of this matchup, and then two players that shined last year, DeLucio and Atkins. Now with UMass Boston, Anderson's shot goes just high and wide off the back wall. He gets a second chance and bombs it off the legs of his own guy, Maynard. Carrying it back behind his own goal now is DeLucio. He moves it up and through the middle. It's Notchbauer with one goal already, trying to get back into the zone. Pushed up and back into neutral ice. Played across now, and Bross will just throw it in on the backhand. Back to chase after it is Mendezoon. Has to pull it away from Notchbauer at the last possible second. 4 minutes gone so far here in the first period. A 1-0 lead for the Beacons as Tiscareno takes over for Team EHL. Giving it up for Doney. Doney trying to cave his man in. He does. And the battle continues in the corner. We're still stuck in the corners. Now it goes back behind. A shot from the slot goes whistling just high and wide. That was a good look for Bross. He has it still. Back for Notchbauer. Back door, they score. Notchbauer actually was trying to get a one-timer off, and it kind of just rolled off of his stick and went right over to Nolan Redler, who did not miss. And for the third straight year in this matchup, the UMass Boston forward has scored against Team EHL. We'll see if we can go back and see the replay for that one. It definitely looked like Notchbauer was trying to get a one-timer off here as it just came falling off of his stick and actually worked out perfectly for Redler, who finishes things off. And a quick start for UMass Boston, and I'm not sure if it's fatigue or what exactly for Team EHL, but obviously a little bit shook right now. There have to be some nerves as well. Coming into this game, they did talk about how they knew it would be a tougher task in the matchups against Pittsburgh State and Salem State. Of course, with UMass Boston coming off another appearance last season in the national tournament. And that's been exactly the case so far with this one, a 2-0 score in the first 5 minutes for the Beacons. You get a pair of guys from either side coming together back behind the goal. Nault now flips things up ice. And turning away from pressure there was Albano. It's carried up ice into the offensive zone. Passes behind the intended man. Possible 3-on-2 here, but an EHL forward went off for a change. Now a hard hit thrown by Houle as everyone gets back to their feet now, and it's pushed back down to the EHL zone. Over to the wall now. It's chipped up, actually ends up out of play for a whistle. It's 5:42 gone so far here in the first period. A 2-0 lead for UMass Boston. Poole now playing it for Haight, who moves it off the wall, kicked down in neutral ice, then back over now. Houle has it again. They'll try the other side this time. Got it along the boards. Doherty trying to move it out of the zone. He can't, and it's pushed back again all the way around towards this near side. Haight chasing after it. And a big battle there in the corner. It goes across the line. Helt walks in, shoots just high and wide. Was trying to pick, it looked like the glove side, top corner, past Gerard, and he just missed the goal. Battle continues along the half boards. Vanak is trying to dig it free. It got stolen off at his stick and carried back behind the goal again. Pair of players from either side come together. And now Houle putting it off the wall to himself, trying to get out of the zone. But good zone time here for the Beacons. Carried up, turning away from pressure. And up top, a blast from Helt once again. Hard bounce off the back wall. Mock trying to now move it out of the zone. Skates it at least to the red line and then throws it down in deep. And that gets some changes for Team EHL. Some changes as well coming right now for the Beacons. Pass up. Right on the tape of Atkins, trying to use his speed to get back behind the goal. Throws a hit on Klein. It's thrown back up now to board. Good look for Finch in stride. Finch just trying to softly play it into the zone. It can't get past the man, though, and it gets backed out into neutral ice. Push further now. Atkins will skate into it for the Beacons. Atkins with a shot, kicked out by Gerard. Second chance kicked out as well, and covered up for a whistle by the EHL goaltender. So for the first goal, I definitely think that Billy Gerard will look to have that one back for Team EHL. For the second one, there's really not much you can do on that broken play where it just turns into a one-timer for one of the top goal scorers on UMass Boston. Coming into this one, he had 49 goals in 79 career games for the Beacons. That's Nolan Redler. As I mentioned a few times throughout this broadcast already, an alumni of the Eastern Hockey League and a player that scored in all 3 games between these two teams over the past few years. It squirts just out in front, almost a bad turnover there for the Beacons, as now it's picked up on the half boards by Nick Aforov. A shot comes in. Nick Burney never realized that it was right next to his pad, and he finally covers things up for a whistle with 12:07 remaining here in the first period. A 2-0 lead for UMass Boston on goals from the top line. The first one, Daniel Notchbauer. The second one from Nolan Redler. And that's where we stand with the score in favor of the Beacons right now. It's carried back behind the goal. DeLucio trying to go through the middle. Off the skates of Notchbauer, and it goes back down to the corner. Redler will get there first for UMass Boston. Play it along the boards. A shot comes in, steered away by Gerard. He couldn't cover things up. Now Mendezoon trying to move it out of the zone. Notchbauer, though, picks things up and keeps it right back in. Across, makes the move, holds, forehand shot, kept out by Gerard. His top line has been buzzing so far in this one for UMass Boston, creating multiple chances. And as I've mentioned, they've scored twice already. Across through the middle, it pinballed its way back over to the corner. That's where it's pushed back behind further for a moment. And the battle continues in the corner. Back for Notchbauer, holding his post tightly there is Gerard to keep that one out. Ida gets pinched off. It comes all the way up top for DeLucio to feed it back down the wall. Stuck in the corner, stick lift from Maynard, moving it up and just outside the zone. DeLucio has to recover in neutral ice. It got turned over, and then Maynard just dumps it down in deep. The entire EHL lineup gets changed out there for fresh bodies as here's a chance for the Beacons. Walking in, across, it gets shot just wide. The second chance, they score. It's the line of Grant, Walker, and Rachowiak cashing in. The first chance, Grant went over for Walker, and the one-timer just missed the goal, and then it was just sitting there waiting for Evan Rachowiak to finish things off. And what a fast start this is right now for UMass Boston. Up 3-0 in this one. We're not even at the halfway point yet here in the first period. Kicks down. Turned over once more, and it went right back into the slot for just a brief moment. Kicked back around now. Marini skates into it. But they go off sides here for the next whistle. There's 10:22 remaining in the first period. A 3-0 lead for UMass Boston as they win this next faceoff and start right back up the ice. Thrown towards the middle. Nault steers it with one hand back towards the corner. It's played behind the goal for Doney. Moving it up to the middle, but Helt keeps it in, then knocks Murphy to the ice. A huge hit thrown there. Stick down by O'Neill back into neutral ice, and Helt has it once more. Coming all the way across and stepping into a shot. No, he faked the shot. He actually kicked all the way over. A backhand look. No, he still held on. Backdoor pass instead, and they score once more. What a start this is for the Beacons. This is now the third line cashing in of Nicken and Skinner going back and forth there. It looked for multiple times that Nicken was going to let a shot go, and he never actually did so. And this is actually going to get Billy Gerard pulled from the goal, and Sam Dinan will go in for Team EHL. This is similar to how last season started, with UMass Boston going up 3-1 early on in that one, and then there was a goalie change in that matchup that kind of sparks Team EHL. This won't, though, as they're going to take their first penalty of the afternoon. And it's Doherty going to the box for a slash. And one thing that you don't want to do when you're already down 4-0 is make a pass to the penalty box and put the team that's up on the power play. Across now. Bounce off a stick, and then it gets shot just past the glove of Dynan. Move down. A backdoor look again. They got it all the way across, but they got sent just high and wide by Billy Grant. All the way up. Albano steps past the man. Goes across. One-time shot. They have their 5th goal of the contest as they cash in on the power play. It was such quick passing, I didn't even see you actually got that shot off for UMass Boston. This is a pretty phenomenal start for the Beacons. It's Notchbauer who picks up the goal, his 2nd of the period. And UMass Boston is all over Team EHL right now in this one. Here's the replay of that tally. Good passing on their first power play of the contest. Albano going across for Notchbauer, who finished things off. And we are past the halfway point now. And this has to be kind of frustrating for Team EHL, especially after winning yesterday against Salem State. A hard hit thrown onto board. Looks like the All-Stars wanted a call on that hit, but they're not going to get it. Along now for Atkins to play it back further, and it kicks out in the neutral ice. Maynard will throw it back down in deep, and chasing after it is Osborne. He picks things up, trying to play further from there. Takes a hit from Maynard, pushed back down low. Nikiforov walking in, can't stuff it past McBurney. Puck got kicked out though and never covered, so UMass Boston clears it out of the zone, pushes it up ice, and Finch goes back to get it for Team EHL. Vickers now through the middle for Maynard. One touch further for Nikiforov. He has to step in here, makes the move, shoots, and a big save there for Bailey McBurney. He got that one with the blocker to keep Team EHL off the scoreboard. It comes all the way up now for Mendezun. Mendezun going across. He bounced off of a stick. Now Anderson walking in tighter. Shot came in. It got kicked out with the left arm of McBurney. And since that most recent tally for UMass Boston on the power play, Team EHL has responded. A couple of chances in on the senior goaltender. He's been up to the task for UMass Boston. This one slides all the way down the ice. Back to pick things up is DeLucio. He moves things across. Almost a home run pass for Grant, but it never got through to him. Now he has it at the blue line. Moving it into the zone onside, back down to the corner. Chasing after it is Ida. Pressure coming on his back from Walker. Get a couple players away from the puck that collide with each other. They're both back to their feet now as it goes up for Marini. He chops it further up the ice. Kicked right back out in the neutral ice, though. And he re-enters the zone. Taking it wide, pulls up, cycles back down low. Gorman sees it go just past his stick, and the battle continues in the corner. Shifts its way back behind the goal. Albano sees it skip past his stick, plays it up. Good passing play here. All the way over for Skinner. The race his way up ice. Skinner makes a nice move, but can't get past Mendezun. It comes up top again, Albano. Putting it towards the goal. Couple tips, and it goes all the way to the corner. Swanky then goes off the glass and down the ice. This rolling puck will make it down for icing against the EHL. Focusing in now on the EHL All-Star coaching staff. Chris Sorella is the head coach of Team EHL for the 3rd straight season. How we actually do that in the EHL, selecting the coaching staff. If you win the championship, you get the chance to be the head coach of the All-Star team. And with back-to-back championships for his New Hampshire Avalanche, he's been the head coach each of the previous 2 seasons. And a big reason why Team EHL tied Fitchburg State on Thursday. And then, as I mentioned before, beat Salem State last night 5-1. This one's gloved down at the line to keep it in the zone. It's Bross. Still, though, Mendezun is able to filter it out in the neutral ice. Across, Murphy, fan on it, mock shot, got blocked right back out. O'Neal will bang it back down in deep. That's where Albano works with his man to get the puck out of the zone. Turning away from pressure is Roland, an alumni of both the North American Hockey League and the EHL. Spent time at the Philadelphia Revolution in the EHL, then moved up to the Northeast Generals, now here with UMass Boston. We're going to get a call away from the play, I think against both players here involved. Or is it against just Team EHL? It is. It's Tristan Mock going into the box for the slash, and the second slash of this game called against the EHL All-Stars. And we saw how quickly UMass Boston cashed in on the power play on their first opportunity. And that was the most recent tally, putting them up 5-0 in this game. But quickly off of this next face-off, it's shot right back down the ice by Team EHL. Left off in neutral ice. Notchbauer with 2 goals already in the game. Pulls up at the half boards. Moves it for Grant. He'll let a shot go off the bottom of the mask of Dynan. Then he has to cover things up for a whistle. .24 seconds gone on the power play. Each team changes out their entire special teams unit before this next face-off. It'll come to the right of Dynan, as now it's played up to the line. Pushed back up top for Walker. Moving it back down low. It skips past the legs of Nitkin. Held up at the half boards for a moment. Played off the pad of Dynan all the way up top. Walker backdoor look. There's more of a foul ball that came there off the stick of Skinner. We'd love to have that one back. All the way up top. Skinner, another one-time shot. This time held against the chest by Dynan for a whistle. Jeff Skinner, the sophomore, had 6 goals and 8 assists and a total of 14 points in 28 games, I should say, this past season. And has shown that he loves to shoot so far in this one. 4:47 left to go in the first period. 1:02 on the power play. Across now, Albano holds up, moves it for Notchbauer. Down low, Redler, back through the slot. Another one-timer goal, and this time it's Zach Bross putting it home for the Beacons. It's a 6-0 score. 4 even strength goals and 2 power play goals here in the opening period. And you have to wonder if part of it is this being the 3rd game in 3 days for Team EHL. They do have a number of teams that play 3 games in 3 days throughout the season, but it's not against Division III opponents. And especially not against Division III opponents that have been in the NCAA tournament for 2 of the past 4 years. A team that's consistently nationally ranked at the Division III level and has been selected in the preseason poll with the New England Hockey Conference to finish 3rd. Now we get another call here against Team EHL, and this is not the path that you want to be taking right now if you're the All-Stars. Going to the penalty box multiple times, and 2 power play goals already in this game for the Beacons. It's DeBoard going to the box this time for the All-Stars. A 6-0 score with 4:11 to go in the first period. And another power play. UMass Boston already 2 for 2 on the power play in this one. Played up the wall. It's collected by Walker. To the line it goes for a moment. Now over for Skinner. All the way up top it's Roland working with Skinner. They go back and forth multiple times. Back over now Walker. Coming across for Skinner again. It goes off of his stick but stays in play. And it bounces off a pair of skates. Poked free for a moment. Walker lost his footing for just a moment as well. And now springing free for a possible breakaway chance here. It's Mock, pressure on his back, and it was great recovery from Walker to get back there. Didn't even commit a penalty in the process, just used his reach to get around Mock and poke that one free. Skinner going towards the offensive zone. Thrown on, goal, it hops over the stick of his intended man, Roviak. Push back down, Albano trying to go further from there. Comes around this near side and then squirts its way out in the neutral ice. Albano has it back in his own end and then dips all the way back behind the goal. Skates his way up ice now. Gains the red line, leaves things off for Notchbauer. Weaves through. Coming across, Albano. Turns his back from Swanky and pushes it back down the wall. Albano moving it for Notchbauer. It's pushed up, Notchbauer. Moving it back over. All the way down low. Redler can't get it through the legs of Nault. Then tried to stuff it past Dynan. And it kicks back to the corner again. All the way down low. Redler up for Notchbauer. Holds, pulls up. Albano's shot goes whistling wide. DeBoard is out of the box. We're back to 5-on-5. The EHL's killed off their first call again so far in this one. And it goes off the pad. And they get a big scrum in there with a few extra jabs from either side. And 2:03 remaining here in the first period. So we'll see where they put this face-off. Actually, they're giving a penalty to UMass Boston. I didn't even see an indication at the time, but they're going to call a slash against the Beacons. It's Nolan Redler going to the box for UMass Boston, and a chance for the EHL to maybe salvage something out of what's left in this first period. 2:03 on the board. So the 2-minute power play can take them right through the end of the frame. As it's one up top for Mendezoon. Move back now, Vanakis going across. Nikiforov never got that pass through to him. Would have loved to get a one-timer off himself, but it gets banged back down the ice. Mendezoon leaves things off there for Vanakis. Anderson throws a hit, and it's played back for some more time and space for the Beacons. And scaling that one down the ice is Browning. Mendezoon moving things for Vanakis. Steps over the red line and pushes it down in deep. Chased after, and then it actually goes off the top of the glass and out of play, which will allow UMass Boston to make a change. If it was shot just clear out of play, they would not have been able to make a change. Definitely not the intention of Osborne there on that one. Was trying to go off the glass and out of the zone. But there's 1:21 remaining here in the first period. A minute and 19 seconds on the power play. As now it's banged back down all the way for Dynan to hold next to his goal. Racing up ice with it is Doney all the way to the offensive zone. Puts it off the back wall. Kicks over Doherty. He's going to get a shot off, and it gets played past him out in the neutral ice. In the final 60 here in the first period. Coming up at the break, we'll talk about the 6 goals so far that the UMass Boston Beacons have scored in this opening frame, and they've looked great in their first contest of the season. Walking in and shooting that one just wide was Riley, and now it's pushed up Doney for Marini. Marini weaving through, trying to go back for Doney. He does, shot kicked out by McBurney, then banged off the glass and down the ice. 30 seconds now remaining in the opening frame. Played up quickly for Tiscareno, going over for Murphy. Fumbled the puck at the last possible second. Cycled back down over to the far side corner. Haight trying to move it from there. Tiscareno stick lift on him, and it gets shot back down the ice. That will almost do it for this first period. As holding it back behind the goal is Houle, trying to shoot things up. 2 seconds and 1. The horn's going to sound here to end a great opening frame of the season for the UMass Boston Beacons as they're up 6-0 in this one over the EHL All-Stars. This is the third year of this matchup between the EHL All-Stars and the Beacons, and you never really know what to predict or expect when these two teams face off. The first year, as I mentioned, was a 3-1 victory for the Beacons. Last year, an 8-5 win for the Beacons in a game that Team EHL actually had the lead at one point in, and then it's just been floodgates to start this one for the Beacons. So we'll take a look back at some of the goals there from the opening period. 6 for UMass Boston, 2 of which came on the power play. Maybe we'll get back to that later on. As I mentioned before, 6 tallies in the contest so far for UMass Boston. 4 even strength goals and 2 goals on the power play. I don't have the official shots right in front of me, but you could tell that they were pointed heavily in favor of the Beacons. And while the score may be a little bit lopsided right now, this event as a whole is something that head coach Peter Belisle takes a lot of pride in for UMass Boston. And we actually had a chance to catch up with him before this matchup to discuss what it's like to play the EHL All-Stars, the recruiting advantage he gets from this game, what it also does for his team to give the freshmen a chance in their first collegiate action.
Joined by UMass Boston head coach Peter Belisle. Coach, this is the third year that the EHL has put out an all-star team. The third year you faced them. What are your observations from these first 2 seasons? 2 very tight games and obviously some really strong talent on the opposing side.
It's a win-win for us by, in all areas, because we get to see the best players in the Eastern Hockey League, a league that's been awesome for Division III hockey in general. And it's been awesome for UMass Boston in general. When you look at Travis Daniel and Eric Tuffman that are up on that 100-point leaderboard, I know we've talked about that quite a bit. You see the guys we got on our team now, whether it's Peters, Atkin, DeLuzio. It's just awesome that we get to play them in our first game. Learn about ourselves really is a big kind of learning curve to finally play against somebody else. And then to, double that with playing an all-star team of kids that are going to be ready to play college hockey next year, Division III college hockey. So it is a tough game because all those kids are going to be playing Division III hockey next year, and hopefully the best ones are on UMass Boston.
Speaking about the best ones, after the first all-star game, you were able to land Chris Peters and Nolan Egbert. Last year, bringing in Jake Adkins and Nick DeLuzio. What are you hoping to get out of those 2 freshmen who are kind of big lands for the program?
It goes back to our point. I mean, why do we recruit Nolan Egbert? Because he shut us out in the EHL All-Star game, We see the Atkins kid just strong and out-muscling some of our guys that are seniors, 25-year-old men. So I think that's, why we love it so much. But I think for these guys, it's a chance to prove against their old, compadres that, we're in college hockey now, and we should have a leg up on these guys because we're a little older and we know more and we're more experienced. But you got to go out and prove it. And these kids got a lot to prove. There's going to be a lot of scouts in this building today from other colleges watching this game. You bet there are. So there's a lot at stake, for both teams. For us, it's playing time. Who's going to earn it? And for them, it's it's getting a spot on the college team of their choice.
In terms of kind of proving yourselves and showing what you guys can do, you lose 12 players from a very successful season. A lot of freshmen who will be taking the ice for the first time against a team in a different uniform. What are you hoping to see out of this young group? Some freshmen are going to have to play right away for this program with the amount of losses you guys took.
Oh, my God, yeah. I mean, it's going to be half our team are going to be freshmen. More than half our D-corps will be freshmen. So, we're going to be playing 3 freshmen forward, 4 freshmen D. So we're going to be young with old. I think we've got we got a senior goaltender. We have, some senior scoring leadership and Nolan Redler and Dan Notchbauer, and great leadership in Dakota Keene and Tyler Siflin. And if this group can mesh, I'm very excited because freshmen, they don't know any better.
What have you seen out of this freshman group thus far? A couple of weeks of practice, obviously the blue and white game. That kind of gives you hope that they can have a similar impact to maybe what you had from the senior class from last year when they came in as freshmen and helped the program to the best season in program history.
I mean, we got some good size back there in this group. I think we got a lot of skill. We got a mixture of some high-end skill when you look at Handy Walker, and then we got some real toughness when you look at guys like Billy Grant and the Atkins, and then you look in the back end. We're gonna have 6 freshmen D fighting for essentially 4 spots. You got Nick Albano and Evan Helt returning. And I tell you, all 6 of those guys are capable. So it's going to be hard for us, but good problem for us. And you know how we go with injuries and whatnot. Well, they're all going to play, and who plays in the first game will be dictated by today's performance.
Coach, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome back into the Edward T. Berry Ice Rink here on the campus of UMass Boston. We're at the first intermission right now between the Beacons and Team EHL. The 3rd year of this exhibition matchup to kick off the year for UMass Boston. We'll take a look at the stats from that first period. It was an excellent opening frame for UMass Boston. Shots currently pointing 14-4 in favor of the Beacons. They won all the faceoffs. They scored twice on the power play. The EHL had a power play chance late in that period, but they were unable to convert on that one, and the score at the end of 20 minutes points 6-0 in favor of the UMass Boston Beacons. This is not the only Beacons team in action today. We also have highlights from the women's soccer team this past Wednesday, actually, I should say. A 3-2 win in double overtime for them over Southern Maine.
What you wanna do, baby? Where you wanna go? I'll take you to the moon, baby. I'll take you to the floor. I treat you like a real lady, no matter where you go. Just give me some time, baby. 'Cause you know, even when we're apart, I know my heart is still with you. 5 more hours down the night is ours, and I'm back with you. This right here is my type of party. 5 more hours, we just getting started. This right here is my type of party. 5 more hours, we just getting started.
17, Grace McGettrick.
We just getting started. How you wanna feel, baby? What you wanna know? Just pour another drink, baby. Come on, pour a little more. I treat you like a real lady. I'll keep you at the cold. I'll give you all my time, baby. You know, even when we're apart, I know my heart is still big with you. 5 more hours down the night is ours, and I'm back with you. This is, yeah, this right here is my type of party. Yeah, 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 yeah. 5 more hours, we're just getting started.
scored by number 17, Grace Legetris, her 10th of the season.
Some phenomenal highlights there from the double overtime win for the women's soccer team this past Wednesday against the University of Southern Maine. We'll not take a look back at all the stats there from the first period. As I mentioned before, pointed heavily in favor of UMass Boston as they have a 6-0 lead in this one as we get set now for the second period. Looking back on the goals, you can see there it took them just 34 seconds to get on the board, with Knockbauer scoring the first goal of the contest for the Beacons, and it was the floodgates just opening up. Redler got on the board next. Roviak had the third tally of the contest, then Nicken, Knockbauer again, and Bross finished things off. As I mentioned before, 4 even strength goals and 2 power play goals for the Beacons there in the opening frame. We'll continue now with a look around Beaconville with some updates both on the soccer and volleyball teams. Volleyball with a 3-0 win over the Keene State College. Actually, all 3 teams against Keene State today. Men's soccer falling 2-1, and then women's soccer winning 2-0. This is not the only NEHC hockey team in action today. There's a few others in some exhibition games as well. But now we'll go into the highlights of those 6 goals in the opening frame. They happened so quickly in the contest. There was one goal I didn't even see who shot the puck for UMass Boston. But as I mentioned before, it took them just 34 seconds to get on the board in this one, as it was a turnover in neutral ice. The Beacons racing right back up the ice. And that's probably a shot that Billy Girard, who started in goal for UMass Boston, would like back, but Nakbar puts it home to get the Beacons on the board first. As I mentioned, 34 seconds into the contest. Boston, right here's a chance that just high and wide the EHL had in on McBurney, who made 4 total saves in the contest. That was a good save that Girard made early on as well. And then this was the one that I believe, watching it live, Nakbar was trying to get a one-time shot off, and it kind of just fumbled off of his stick, but worked out perfectly for him, kind of like a foul ball, went right over to Nolan Redler. That was what made it a 2-0 lead for the Beacons. Another chance here, and while it was a frustrating opening frame for Billy Girard, who was eventually pulled for Sean Dynan, did make a number of saves to keep the score right where it's at. This then was the 3rd goal of the contest, which came off the stick of Roviak. It felt like every time UMass Boston struck for a goal, they came right back with another goal. Nicken getting the next goal to make it 4-0. And then it started to open up a little bit more with a power play strike from Daniel Knockbar to make it 5-0. After the 5th goal, there was a little bit of a pushback from the EHL as they created some chances in tight on McBurney, but he was up to the task, maintaining the shutout throughout the frame for UMass Boston. And the final goal that they scored of the frame, a power play strike for Zach Bross to make it 6-0. We'll now take a quick break and come back with the second period next. You're watching the Beacons Broadcast Network.
The 5-campus UMass system is the university that educates the workforce of Massachusetts. We recognize that we are truly here for a reason, and that recognition inspires us and drives us every single day.
Welcome back inside the Edward T. Berry Ice Rink on the campus of UMass Boston. We're now set and ready to go with the second period. Two teams will switch sides for this middle frame. There's no carryover power play time from that first period. The EHL's power play expired with about 2 seconds left to go in the frame or so. But Sean Dinan stays in goal for Team EHL, and Nolan Egbert goes between the pipes for UMass Boston. The sophomore from New York is an alumni of the Eastern Hockey League, played in this game 2 seasons ago, and actually in that matchup made 36 saves in basically half the contest and really caught the attention of head coach Peter Belisle, and then ultimately ends up here at UMass Boston. As I mentioned before, the Beacons are planning to use 1 goaltender per period in this one, so it's the sophomore's turn now. With the score 6-0. We'll see how the EHL All-Stars respond here in the second period as it goes up now for Albano. His shot got redirected on the way through, steered wide for a moment, and then Redler has it back. He turned the puck over, and there's 60 seconds gone so far here in the second period. Nikiforov trying to play it further from there. And across it goes now for Doney. Doney flips things up. Played with a high stick by Albano, but the EHL touched it next, so we carry on with no whistle. Pass all the way up for Grant. Steps over the line, trying to make a move. Lost the puck on a poke check from Nick Nault. He gets a hit, finished hard on him. Unable to move it out of the zone is Descanio, and Nault has it back. Shifting it back behind the goal. Played along the boards. Gorman chopped at it, and they're going to say hand pass is why we get our next whistle.